I think blackfellas will find each other in a foyer like nobody's business. It's like we just kind of have a radar for each other, you know? So we just naturally gravitate towards each other. And, you know, I'm really lucky that a lot of, you know, the people that I live with are my best friends who I've also worked with a lot too. And so there's just this beautiful care and support, not just for each other's work, but also just wanting to like pave the way, you know, the same way that it's been paved for us too, you know? So we're all kind of wanting to take care of each other now, but also take care of the people that come after us too. It's part of the daily challenge of existing in this place. It is I think people feeling like they're holding on to something, and when that is challenged, that fear then manifests into spitting racism and hate.
How much does politics come into your work? And on what level is it? How conscious is it? Whether it is a blackfellow work or not?
It's always at the forefront, because it's always at the forefront of my mind as a person in the world.
Hi, hello, Suzy Wrong. And this is the Here We Are podcast, where you can catch me having seriously fun chit-chats with my friends in the theatre business. Today we're shining the spotlight on Ian Michael. We speak to you from unceded Gadigal lands of the Eora Nation, better known by its colonial name of Sydney. This podcast is brought to you by the Here We Are app, created specifically for people who love theatre. Whether you're a practitioner or an avid audience member, Here We Are is a new social media alternative that allows us to share our passions for the theatre in a digital space designed by people who devote their lives to the arts, as distinct from the billionaire tech companies who clearly don't care very much. Is there a fan club I can join for you? Is there merch I can buy with your face on it?
I don't think so.
I have become such a huge fan of your work.
Oh, thank you.
And it's all happened so quickly. I don't want to say that, you know, you're an overnight success, because we don't really know, because you're from out of town, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't know sort of the years of work you've done.
Yeah.
But you kind of appeared in Sydney a little bit out of the blue.
Yeah.
Am I right to say?
I think you're right to say that.
Because one moment I saw you play a supporting role in a play, stealing the show, with a comment about white shoes.
Yes. Yeah, City of Gold.
City of Gold. Incredible play.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next moment, you're directing a show at Sydney Theatre Company, a difficult task.
Yeah.
Constellations.
Yeah.
With two brilliant actors and the most incredible design team.
Oh, beautiful.
And I thought, oh, his name is attached as director, leading this incredible team. Let's see what's going to happen.
Mm.
And the show just blew everyone away.
Yeah. It was really special.
And you still consider yourself very new to this town.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the first play that I ever directed was only 3 months before City of Gold. So at the end of 2021, I directed The Bleeding Tree at the Blue Room Theatre in Perth. And, you know, I went to WAPA in 2008. So I've been working in theatre since that time, as an actor and as a writer. And I never considered myself a director. It's something I never saw for myself. And it was a number of directors who I would work with, people like Rachel Mazza, who I would be in rooms with, and I'd be offering things, or I'd be very nosy, looking at what the sound designers were doing or what the lighting designers were doing. And she'd always say to me, she'd go, "You want to be a director, don't you?" And I'd always go, No. I'm an actor. I just want to be an actor. And then eventually I was like, I wonder why she's saying this. And I was really fortunate that I got offered an assistant directing position on a show in Perth at Black Swan State Theatre Company in 2018. And then the bug kind of built, and I was like, oh, this is interesting. Maybe I will try this. And then from that, I asked Sydney Theatre Company if there were any kind of assistant directing jobs or observing roles going on, and I was lucky enough, this was in 2019, to sit on the remount of Black is the New White by Nakia Louie for their tour. And from that moment on, I was like, oh, this is something that I really want to try and see if this is something I can do. And
Was that your first job in Sydney, like it's any way?
Yeah, on the remount tour of that.
How did you make that leap from, I know you had spent some time in Melbourne and then Black Swan in Perth. Something happened, right? You decided you want to do Sydney.
Yeah, I mean, I think I always wanted to do Sydney, but I was always a little bit scared of, I moved to Melbourne when I was, 19, really wanting to be an actor and break into those main stage spaces, and it just didn't happen for 8 years. And then I didn't get my first main stage role until 9 years after graduating acting school. And I played Oscar and Let the Light One In at Black Swan. So I was this 28-year-old playing this 14-year-old. But I always wanted to try Sydney. But I was, after so long in Melbourne, not seeing myself on stage, not seeing myself on screen, that the leap to Sydney just felt like too great a risk. And it was from that role on Black is the New White as an observer that I got a call from the Sydney Theatre Company the day after that finished saying, we'd love to offer you a job next year as an assistant director with Kip Williams. And I was like, oh, amazing, that sounds great. A really big fan of Kip's work. And I was like, what's the play? And they said, oh, Kip's doing an adaptation of The Picture of Dorian Gray. And I was like, oh, that sounds really great. And I said, yes, of course. Not knowing what it was, the form that it was going to be, the team that was behind it. And from that moment in 2020, I formed a really great relationship with the company and with Kip and that creative team. And every time we'd remount the show, I'd come back and Kip was always trying to tease me to be here. And I eventually kind of gave in and moved over.
But it traveled the world with that show.
We traveled the world with that show, and it's opened up the door for me in so many ways. It's really taught me a lot. And from building that relationship with Kip, that I got offered the Richard Wright Fellowship at STC in 2022, the same year as City of Gold. So that was part of the reason of moving over as well, was that show, but also that position at the company. And then in 2023, Kip, at the end of 2022, for the season the year after, Kip said, do you want to direct a play? And I was like, no, I'm not ready. I do that a lot with people that are like, do you want to do this? And I go, no. And he said, no, you're going to direct a play. And he was like, what are you interested in doing? It's, obviously should be a small show, maybe a two-hander. And I had read Constellations by Nick Payne a few years earlier at Black Swan. And I was like, I think it should be Constellations, I think it feels like a good fit for me. I'm in love with the text and the form. And he was like, yeah, it's a great fit. And so that was the second play I ever directed. In 2022.
So Sydney was part of your ambition. Is that because you feel like it's where things are a bit more exciting?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I mean, there's also just more opportunity. I feel like there are more spaces. I feel like when I was in Melbourne, the community in the arts I felt wasn't around. There was a very small blackfella community in the arts, but not the same as it is here. And I think that's part to do with the opportunity and spaces, but also the ambition, I think, as well. Whenever I would come to Sydney, I would go to watch shows at Belvoir and STC, and I would look at how ambitious those kinds of works were, and particularly the First Nations work as well.
Yeah.
The first show that I ever saw in Sydney was Brothers Wreck by Jada Alberts. And I remember sitting in that theatre, and every time I go to Belvoir, I still have that feeling of watching that play and just what that story did and how they told it and how what Jada had put on the page. It just kind of really opened up so much for me as an artist.
Do you, as someone who's travelled, who didn't grow up here, wasn't born here, I'm wondering, as an Indigenous artist, is it easy to find a support system of other Indigenous artists?
I think we naturally just gravitate towards each other because, we're such a small population of this colony, but there's also such a small population of us in this industry and in this sector. So we just naturally find each other. I think blackfellas will find each other in a foyer like nobody's business. It's like we just kind of have a radar for each other, So we just naturally gravitate towards each other. And, I'm really lucky that a lot of, the people that I live with are my best friends who I've also worked with a lot too. And so there's just this beautiful care and support not just for each other's work, but also just wanting to like pave the way, the same way that it's been paved for us too, So we're all kind of wanting to take care of each other now, but also take care of the people that come after us too.
I really love observing how Indigenous artists work. It's my strongest belief, right, that the more we create spaces that can accommodate more Indigenous artists, more Indigenous voices, the better things are going to be for everyone.
Yeah.
But it's been difficult. It's always been difficult. Mm-hmm. And even with people like yourself and others becoming more and more prominent, it still feels really difficult.
Yeah.
And it's hard. Like, and in my commentary of Indigenous work, I'll also have to be very careful about, reminding myself that they are from different countries. We're used to thinking of this continent as like one colonized place.
Yeah.
And then I always think like, don't fall into the trap of thinking that Indigenous cultures have all these similarities and forget that, even though they appear to have a lot of solidarity, that they have kind of different colors, so things that outside people wouldn't know.
Absolutely.
So is it very different having moved from the other part of the continent? Do you find yourself like when you found your Indigenous brothers and sisters here, were there differences as well?
Absolutely. I mean, I think part of that, having hundreds of different groups and clan groups and language groups, like everybody has their own ways of doing things, and each one of those groups and each of us who come from different places, our mobs have dealt with the colony in different ways. Like there's a very shared understanding, but there's also very different experiences, and so I think that's kind of the beauty in that, is that we are able to come together and have that shared understanding, and part of that is in the empowerment of each other as well. And I think being able to be in rehearsal rooms and create work together just makes, having all of those different experiences just makes it so much more rich as well.
When you directed Stolen last year, and then this year, Big Girls Don't Cry, with an entire Indigenous cast for both shows, it was a different kind of magic, right?
Yeah.
I felt like, it almost felt like with you at the helm, you almost could probably speak with more shorthand language. I felt like the shows weren't explaining quite as much. Do you agree with that?
Absolutely. I mean, there's like First Nations theatre, regardless of what story you're telling, in what kind of form, in what kind of style, a lot of those stories are connected to our experiences of being blackfellas in this colony, and so many of those stories are connected to colonization, to genocide, to trauma, to things that are continuous, that are happening today. And so in a way, we don't have to over-explain ourselves to each other. Like with Stolen, for example, that we sat around the table and on day one said, shared our experiences of the Stolen generation with each other, and every single blackfella had a story and a connection to that. And then from that day on, we never had to speak about it again, because we have a very lived experience of it and a very shared experience of it, and then knowing that we could then just tell the story, which, it's an incredible thing to be able to not have to try and find a reason to tell a story.
To justify
it just
things.
Exists. Yeah. You don't have to justify any of it.
Yeah.
You can just tell it.
It was interesting that your first major work as a director here was Constellations and not an Indigenous one. Because it's so easy, right, to look at a big company and think, they've given an Indigenous director this opportunity. And it's so easy to think that they're going to use the opportunity to stage a political play. But it didn't happen that way.
Yeah.
And that was really good, because it made us see you first.
Yeah.
As kind of this person independent of the politics first. And And then you followed it up with something that was political. Before we thought that, oh, maybe he's intentionally apolitical, which is, troubling.
Yeah, absolutely.
Always your own prerogative.
Yeah.
So I did have this thing in my mind, like, how much does politics come into your work? And on what level is it? How conscious is it? Whether it is a blackcollar work or not?
It's always at the forefront, because it's always at the forefront of my mind as a person in the world. And Constellations, for example, part of me wanting to direct that work at STC, at Sydney Theatre Company, for the first time was that. I wanted to just be an artist, and knowing that I deeply felt the pressure of directing a play at that company for the first time, and I selfishly did just want to be an artist and to be able to explore what that meant for me, which then meant, luckily it went really well, that I was able to have the opportunity to direct other things, and to be able to, from the success of that, every single play that I've ever directed at Sydney Theatre Company, I've pitched, and I've been really lucky to do that. Every single work, Constellations, for example, thinking about the universe and the cosmos and astrology and all of that, astronomy, sorry. Like, we spoke about what that meant for me and like people too. Like that, those things don't disconnect, even if it's a First Nations work or not. Picnic at Hanging Rock that I directed at the start of the year as well. It was, there's a reason why there were 3 women of colour in that cast. And I entered thinking about that work in a very, knowing that work was colonial, it was a colonial story. But I entered that work going, what is that land? Whose land is it? Not was it, whose land is it? And so that really informed how we made that show. So the politics and from where I come from and where my people come from are always leading me as an artist and leading me as a person, always.
Selfishly, I have a question about Picnic at Hanging Rock. I saw your show, your production of this earlier this year. And I came up to you right away and I said, I think it's the best thing I've ever seen in my life. It's hard to know for sure, because I've had a long night.
I've seen a lot of theatre too.
I've seen a lot of theatre. But at that moment, I thought, it's made me feel so many things in such complicated ways. And I felt like it was relentless. It didn't give me a moment to breathe. It was so rich and it was so intense. And that's what I want from the theatre. But I also know that because of the abstraction of your take of the work, I knew that it wasn't going to appeal to everyone. It wasn't the kind of show that would appeal to everyone. So selfishly, I want to talk about this show and how your response is. I'm assuming you have heard that people had problems with its abstraction. Have you encountered people talking to you about that?
About that work particularly?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, firstly, Picnic was the first production that I made where I kind of didn't go into it really wanting to please every person that was going to see it, which is an amazing place to be in your career, and especially as a very new director, knowing that work and that adaptation is very contentious for audiences, like the same way that when they did it in Melbourne for the first time, people really loved it and people didn't really like it. And in this production, especially, that there were 3 women of colour on stage. There were more women of colour than not. That really rubbed people certain ways.
Oh, you felt that?
Oh, definitely. And I had to close all of the ads that came up on my social media for it, because I was just seeing like incredibly racist things that people were saying about.
Oh, because they saw the film and it was all white people.
Absolutely. Yeah, and people were holding on to this idea of their picnic at Hanging Rock. And we had, subverted that and shook it up.
The story.
Yeah.
And the ownership of the story doesn't include us.
Absolutely. So we were, their kind of colonial narrative was being challenged on stage in this, people were upset by it. And so I think the script was contentious for people, and which I think I love.
Just to make it clear for people who don't know it, these characters were not talking blackfellow language. They were not talking about POC experience
No.
explicitly.
No.
It was all the subtext.
Yeah.
So because you put more people, women of color than white women, it became so loud that people couldn't handle it.
Yeah, because people thought putting women of color meant that I was trying to be political with that work, where actually the first stage direction in the script is 5 young women in the present day stand on stage. And I took that quite literally and said, well, what do 5 young women standing on a stage in the present day look like? And it's not 5 young white women.
You would even notice, I'm trying to think like, how funny that you would even notice it or remember that.
Yeah.
But some people apparently do.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's part of the daily challenge of existing in this place. It is I think people feeling like they're holding on to something, and when that is challenged, that fear then manifests into spitting racism and hate. Yeah.
When I go raving to people at the show and they say, "Oh, I saw it," there were a few people who I was surprised because I thought they had some level of sophistication with kind of seeing theatre. And I felt surprised that they were really uncomfortable with not knowing. Because there were a lot of sections where it was just kind of visual art. It was just symbolism, colours, sounds, the incredible sound.
Oh my God, James Brown.
Your collaboration with James Brown is something else.
Yeah.
Than the sound designer.
Yeah.
And it hit me so hard, like, oh, there's such a low level of theatre literacy that people that I see so many shows so much at the foyers, and they still need to be fed the narrative so much.
Yeah.
So I hope you don't get discouraged by that, because it's really pushing the art.
Yeah. No, I don't feel discouraged by it at all. Actually, I find it really fueling. And I'm really fortunate enough to be working on another Tom Wright adaptation right now, and Tom is very explicit in that his work is all about ideas and images, and I think if you try and fight that, then it doesn't work. And so with Picking, it was always about, those kind of moments that were about stage imagery and presenting the ideas and it not always being about relationships or characterization or the psychology of a character. I think maybe, I don't know what the landscape of theatre has been like in Sydney for the past decade, but I just wondered if maybe in theatre in general, like maybe we're not feeling challenged enough, and so when something does challenge us, it makes us feel uncomfortable. But feeling uncomfortable in theatre is not a bad thing. I'd rather people feel something. I can't. If I go to watch theatre, I have to feel something. If I don't feel anything, even if it's not my taste, I have to leave feeling something. And so if people didn't like it or it made them uncomfortable for whatever reason, then I guess that we've done our job.
I'm glad you say you feel fueled by it, that you're encouraged by this. Because I think what that show was that, like I said earlier in this interview, that we didn't have to explain too much. I think a lot of the symbolism, a lot of what you were creating in terms of atmosphere, in terms of sentimentality and emotion, I think it made sense if you are a colonized person.
Yeah.
I think if you are a marginalized person, that was enough in the story anyway to give you an idea of where the story was going.
Yeah.
But the really kind of intricate design elements, especially with the set and the light and the sound, it was talking a theatrical language. Often when there were no lines, that as people that were marginalized, you could resonate with. And I think that's what makes you. I felt at that moment, wow, that's a great piece of theatre with someone who knows theatre really well and strangely hasn't directed very many things. So I feel so encouraged that, first of all, you were able to come up with something like that and and feel fueled by that experience.
Yeah, thank you.
So Troy
is
coming up at Malthouse.
It's coming up. It's happening right now.
It's happening.
Yeah.
Greek mythology.
Greek mythology.
I'm assuming you and I know nothing.
Not a thing. Colonized person.
But it's mysticism, isn't it?
Yeah. But in the same way, actually, that again, the way in which Tom is talking about the idea of land and people who are hungry for power and hungry to try and control it, the same way in which Picnic was too, that Mrs. Appleyard was the symbol for colonialism. She was trying to control those young women like the people who invaded this land tried to control this land and the people, my people, and of this land. And so in the same way, Troy is about the Greek mythologies, and it was taking from Homer and Euripides and all of the retellings of it. Tom is really, we're really speaking to the idea of what it means to try and own something, and the power and the control of it, and what does it mean when you don't listen to it or respect it or understand it or acknowledge it. What happens then? There's a shift and an unbalance there. And it's the theatre has such an incredible ability to retell stories, and retell stories that have been told again and again and again, and I really feel like that our form possesses that ability to breathe life into something again, and while this story as well has been told for thousands and thousands of years, and it's about things that are bigger than us. It's about the gods and it's about the creations and all of, and I understand that. I understand that there is something bigger than us that has created all of this.
I love that you brought up this retelling of stories. I think there is a bit of a, maybe I would say a conflicting notions about retelling stories in places like Australia. Obviously, work by Shakespeare is constantly being retold. But our cultures, we are always telling old stories.
Yeah.
And in Chinese theatre particularly, the text always seems to be ancient. That with every generation, you find a new way to tell the old story.
Yeah.
So it's almost like an approach to form that I feel that probably our cultures have in common. Because you always have to look at the modern times.
Yeah.
But you have your way of approaching it.
Absolutely. That ancient text and those stories are a thing that is constantly living and constantly evolving. And so the way in which culture has to shift and grow in the same way that the world continues shifting and growing as well. And the same way in which Stolen, for example, was a play that has existed for 20 plus years. But I think people have an expectation of what that kind of story would be, because it's a play about the stolen generations. But me and the team really wanted to ensure that we weren't just doing an educational piece, but that we were being able to retell this story and for it to have the impact that it had 20 years ago and have that impact today.
Because people are different today.
Because people are different today and people aren't different today as well.
Yeah.
And so, this idea of retelling, I think, is so important because there has to be a reason why we have to retell them as well. For example, speaking about Troy, we're retelling this story that has existed for so long, but in a way we're confronting it because we have to ask ourselves, why do we continue to go to war? Why are people hungry for power? And what happens when we get to that war zone? What do we forget? What are we willing to give up? And for this play, we only ever see one of the gods. It's very much about the humans, and it's about the fragility of love and the humanity within it. So I think theatre is such an incredible thing to be able to continue to question old stories, but also to question them in the world now too.
You told me earlier that you're 2 weeks into rehearsals for Wright. On the first day, when you've entered the room, how much of it have you met? How much do you feel like you've got to handle things?
I feel like I am starting to have a really solid sense of my process as a director. The mythologies and all of the content is something that I'm continually absorbing, and us as the team are absorbing, because Tom's not taken one of those the versions of the story. He's taken many, so we're understanding what this is together. I have a pretty solid sense of like images that I want to see. I have a very solid sense of the tone. I always go in knowing why. But everything else, in terms of where actors stand, how they relate to each other in the space, all of that, I go in open, knowing that I'm working, like everybody in that room is there for a reason, and that we will find all of this and explore all of this together. But I really go in knowing why, and I go in with a sense of things that I want to see, or moments that I really, really want to mine for.
Which part of that process do you like the least?
At the moment, like the process of being a director is still so new, so I don't find any of it that I don't like. I mean, there are things I don't like the least, like I mean, it's also actually, there are things you don't like the least in everything you do, but right now I really find the enjoyment in all of it, because it's so new.
I'm assuming at this stage of the rehearsals, there's a lot of frustration.
Yeah, I mean,
I feel like it's normal. My experience of it is maybe it's different as a performer a little bit. Because I've never directed a show.
Yeah.
But my experience of these things is when you're in the rehearsal and you've only done a couple of weeks, and then you see in a couple of weeks' time you're going to be on stage, and there's so many questions yet to be figured out, and there's so many uncertainties.
Yeah.
The fears can be so terrifying. And as an actor, it takes a certain amount of experience to, trust the process.
Yeah.
Which includes embracing the fear, which is a really difficult thing, because fear is constantly an emotion of rejection.
Yeah.
And I don't do that. I don't believe that. That is going to make me look so stupid. But at the same time, you're in this process where you just have to go into it. And I guess you're right, because I'm thinking, all right, just trust that you knows what he wants and do it.
Yeah.
So I guess for you, you have to be a little bit more sure about it. Maybe.
I think so, and also that you're kind of the person who's kind of leading that room as well. That any fears that you have, I mean, that's why having a creative team who you can really like lean in on and with is such an incredible thing in a production, because you can kind of like just share those fears with them. And I think a really big part of anxieties and fears in rehearsal rooms are to do with time. And it's no lie that the rehearsal periods in Australia are getting shorter, but the works need to be bigger and more ambitious, and they need to sell more tickets, but that the process of making them is kind of being more restrained. So I think for me, the time is the thing that I need to be mindful least.
You've done 2 weeks. How more weeks before you go in, you bump in for tech?
We have 2 weeks and 1 day left.
Wow. So these days, even if a show it's a big cast, isn't it?
7, yeah.
7. And it's historical epic. It's got 4 weeks.
Yeah, 4 weeks and 1 day.
Back in the 90s, you would do like 3 months of a rehearsal.
Yeah,
tiny show.
Yeah, I the first play that I ever did at Malthouse was in 2019, and I acted in Tim Winton's Cloud Street by Nick Enright and Justin Munro, and we rehearsed that for 11 and a half weeks, which was insane. That would never happen. I don't know how they got that across the line, but they did. But it meant just that because we were creating 2 families as well, that we really were with each other for up to, I think, 6 months. We spent 6 months together.
But clearly it works.
Clearly works.
Or at least you know how to make it work, even if it's just 4 or 5 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, I think knowing that, and the thing of going in and knowing what do I know, I know that by the end of each week I know where I want to get to, because you just have to. but this work particularly has been really challenging and rewarding because it's also not a play that I was originally meant to direct.
Okay.
Yeah, so Matt Lutton, who was the artistic director at Malthouse, who's now the artistic director at Adelaide Festival, was originally the director. 2 days after Picnic at Hanging Rock opened, he called me saying, I've got a new job. I can't direct this show anymore. Tom Wright says you're the only person that can direct it.
Oh, through Tom.
Through Tom.
I was wondering if Matt was at opening or Picnic.
Yeah, Tom, when Matt couldn't do it anymore, Tom said Ian should direct it. And I said, oh, okay, sure. If Tom says that, then that's an incredible feeling. And he said, you've kind of got, can you make a decision in the next 24, 48 hours? And I said, yes, of course, because it's Tom Wright and you never want to say no to work.
This is such an incredible year for you.
Yeah.
Because when all the companies' programming came out last year and your name kept coming up with the 3 big companies, I'm like, wow, you're directing 3 shows with 3 big companies in quick succession.
Yeah, back to back.
And I thought that's going to be the year Ian, which is great. And then Malthouse came a bit later.
Yeah.
And then you're just telling me now that you're heading off to New York.
To London.
Because?
I'm going to be the associate director on Dracula with Kip Williams on the West End.
Starring?
Cynthia Erivo. Yeah.
I'm so happy.
It's a massive year.
And I'm so happy that Dracula is getting this opportunity.
Yeah.
I love that show to bits. And I'm so glad that it is almost like Kip's kind of final chapter with STC, Dracula, which I thought was such a phenomenal work. And it's just so great in so many ways. And now you're going to be able to travel again with this show.
Yeah.
Are you looking forward?
I mean, how could you not? It's been a wild year. Getting to direct 4 plays at 4 main stage companies is wild, and that they've all happened in the first 8 months of the year is quite a thing. Yeah, but also just thinking as well about I'd never directed new work before, and out of those 4 plays, 3 of them are new works. So it's been an incredible thing to be able, with every single opportunity, that I've really learned a lot really fast. But all of them just keep feeding each other. That my kind of dramaturgical brain as a director is evolving now in a way that I didn't think I was ever would have the opportunity to do so. So that's been really amazing. I mean, it's getting also to be, so I've been the associate director on all of Kip's The Video trilogy. And we were lucky enough that we did it on the West End last year, The Picture of Dorian Gray. And there's not a lot of things in theatre that come for free. There's not a lot of perks other than amazing collaborations and opportunities. But there's quite a buzz to see your name on a show poster on a West End or in a playbill in New York on Broadway. That's a really special feeling. And I guess in a way I go, I've been only directing for 4 years. I've only directed 7 plays in those 4 years. But I've been doing this for a really long time.
Yeah, you.
This has been not just my career, but my life.
Yeah.
For a really long time, and that feels like a really special thing to kind of celebrate and to just let that feeling live, and for it to be exciting.
I'll ask you about talent, because you've had ambition. Clearly, you want to be an actor. You went to WAPA, and then you thought, I want to go to Sydney, where things are. There's ambition there. Does that mean does ambition come with a lot of self-belief?
Oh, yeah, I think it has to. Yeah, I think it has to.
How did you know that you're talented?
I don't know. I don't. I think I know because I have had a lot of people believe in me, and I think when you feel like you have enough people believe in you, then you believe in yourself. Even the moments and days that you don't. I'm so lucky that people like Rachel Mazza, Claire Watson, Kip Williams, Penny Harperman, Sienna Van Helten, who I wrote my first play together in 2015. I've just been so lucky that there's been so many people that have championed me and believe in me and have blackfellas and not blackfellas too, you know, who've just held the door open for me or have just given me opportunity. And I think like the talent thing is, I really am feeling like I'm not wanting to please everybody as an artist, and that's an exciting thing too. And whether or not that means that everybody likes the work or that I maybe don't hit the mark, I feel like I'm at the point where I'm really wanting to just push myself as an artist too, and that's an exciting thing.
You know, through these couple of years that I've seen you around the traps, I've always thought Ian is such a soft-spoken person, sometimes almost timid in appearance.
Yeah.
And then it gives the impression that, are they a little bit unsure about themselves? But actually, I'm really happy to hear that you're not. Or maybe you're no longer. I don't know.
Yeah.
Because I think that confidence is so important.
Yeah.
Because what you have achieved and what our expectations are for you, are huge.
Yeah.
Because very few of us get to this stage in the career. And I think you yourself will know very clearly that you're not doing this only for yourself. Whether you like it or not, there's so much that your one person's career of your position means to so many people.
Oh, yeah. And I don't take that lightly. Like, that's an absolute privilege to have. And I think like the timidity, I think I have like quite high levels of social anxiety. But like that, whatever the fire is it's because every time I get to make a piece of theatre or every time I get to be in a room, I know that that's a privilege. It's not something that I take for granted ever. And in the same way, as an actor and as a director, I never want to waste a moment, whether that's in a room, on stage, making, presenting something to an audience, offering something to an audience. I always just know that this is just such a gift to be able to do. And I don't want to throw it away.
You're doing everything right.
Thanks.
What's next for you?
What's next for me?
Yeah. You can tell us. This episode doesn't drop till later.
Yeah.
Or
sure.
Or you can give us kind of vague ideas. Up to you.
Yeah. What am I doing at the moment? Next year I'm directing another production at Sydney Theatre Company, which will be announced soon.
Yeah.
There is a production that I directed this year that is going to come back next year, which is very exciting, which gets to have another life. And that's an exciting thing because, as we know, in Australian theatre, things don't get to have another life again. So,
same venue?
Different venue.
Okay.
Yeah. That's a really great thing. I'm really keen to get into to do some more writing. I've wrote and co-wrote 2 plays, and so I want to do some adapting of my own. There's a novel that I want to adapt. So I'm really keen to want to try and get the rights to that, and so I want to do some more writing. I feel like I'm at that point where I want to kind of maybe break into doing some screen as a director, some screen work. Yeah, at the moment, I'm kind of just taking whatever comes, like I'm having this incredible wave of opportunity, and I think people go, are very excited by it. But I think for me, I'm like, I just don't say no to good things, and that's part of that as well. So a bunch of directing next year, and I want to do some writing. Desperate to do some acting again. Desperate. It's that there's a little place in my heart that I like, that just makes me the happiest, it's so different to directing. So I'm kind of just still saying yes to good things at the moment.
Keep saying yes to good things, because we love you.
Oh, thank you so much.
So much.
Thank you. Also, can I just say that getting to have this conversation with you just means so much, because the way in which you the conversation you were having with art and the way in which you support and champion artists just means so much to us. So thank you so much for your work too.
Thank you so much.
It really means a lot.
Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.